Okay, I think we're live in YouTube as well. Good morning, traders. Good morning to all our YouTube viewers as well as they join. And welcome to our London session, London Open. Let's go. I'm going to go through very quick some of the trades we looked at yesterday afternoon when I left the New York session, what we did to those trades, what happened, and then I'm going to start with the trades we were looking at from our trading room this morning in the Asian session. We were there. And then I will go through all the majors and all the other trade setups that you guys want or that you see, right? So let's start with the trades yesterday. There were 3 trades that we were tagged in yesterday. The first one was, well, this one was an aggressive trade, and I warn you, be careful of it if you're taking it, right? Because you would have to know how to exit that trade. Now, traders who took this trade from my group did one of the 2 things. Either you close the trade here on this consolidation, or you get a loss, right? Those are the 2 options you had yesterday on this trade. You cut the trade here when you saw this consolidation going up, or you took a loss on the trade. It's still downside, but now we are not going to be breaking this to go down. Since we came back to the top, we would look at it as a possible running flat. So it's still going to come here, but now after this one, we're going to get an up move before you get the big drop. The big drop is still coming, right? The big drop is the daily structure, but within the 4-hour structure, there is a trade that we could get here today. First, we have to wait for it to consolidate. So could this possibly go up one more? Even if it goes up one more, it will be only a very small trade to the upside like this. On the downside, we have to wait for this to make a flag, and then we are going to go for this trade, which would be more like a 1-to-1, 1.5 to 1 trade, but it's going to be a really good trade. The second trade we were in was the CADJPY. This trade, by rule, although it's dropping again, by rule, my traders would have to take break even on that trade, positive break even. Now, if they want to re-enter the trade this morning, they would re-enter it either in this flag, and this flag means you're just coming back to the bottom here. That's a small trade if any one of my traders took that. It will be only to take this trade here with a stop above here, because what we are doing here now is you're probably making a bigger flat. The mere fact that this went up back to this, it dropped here, not breaking the low and going back up, it tells us that we're making a bigger flat in here. And that means that this point has a high probability of going up. So if you're in this trade, what you would do is you would move your stop very close now into taking profit, because there's a very good chance that this goes back up there. We get a bigger flat in here, and then we actually fall. There, it could also come back and go back, which means it could become a bigger one and then come down. It is still downside. As you can see, it is still downside. Now, I don't think this is the one that will drop. I think there's a good chance we're going to go back up, because the possibility is we'll be looking at this as a flat in the middle here. And this goes back up there before we come. So if you're in the sell here now, you got to be careful. It's no longer this sell. Now, what if it's going to drop? The question would be, well, what if it dropped? What are the chances it still dropped? This is the running flat. This is still the running flat. And that is just you having a flat within this one for it to drop. Well, in that case, you have to wait for it to break this low, make another flag, and then we trade this flag, just like if you trade that 15 minutes flag this morning, but you're only trading that for the small trade, right? This is how you understand how wave analysis develops, how the patterns will develop as they go along. So it's still downside, but now the probability, remember I explained yesterday, the probability for a bigger flat to form. The probability, especially if this comes here and go back up there before we get a bigger flat, the probability of this coming here and going back up is high. We will still trade this, but then the chances are it could go back up there, come here, and then we go one more up. That will give you this bigger flat. So we will still look for this trade either from a flag, or by this afternoon, I think by New York session, maybe even before New York session, this should go back up. And then we will look for the sell setup like we did yesterday, this one. We'll sell it from the top there. So the worst case, when you use wave analysis, the worst case, if it doesn't go immediately, is that you get break even. This is like your worst case scenario most of the time. I would say about 10% of them actually do go take you out at the stop loss, but about 90% of your trades, if you follow the method we use and the money management and the trade management we use, not so much with the trade management rules we use, you get out of these trades much earlier. So that is what I'll be looking at. Let's wait to see if it goes up. If anybody took the 15-minute trade this morning, well done. Watch it at the bottom here. We spoke about that. You can keep it only to this level. And now you got to be careful, because the chances are it's going to go back up. So can we buy it to the upside? Well, if we actually get a flag, if it goes up, give us a flag. If this stops here, turn, give you a flag here, we can take that flag back to this stop, because we'll be looking at this flag. maybe this here would be part of the down move. Maybe it would be part of this move, which means it will come back here and go back up and then drop. I think by this afternoon New York session, we will get the sell set up. So like I said, if you stay 1 week, you will have a very good idea of how we look at these trades, how we look at the patterns, and how we trade them. The next trade we had was the pound yen, and I warned you immediately that the pound yen will go back up, right? If you remember, I said, if you want, you have two options. Once it breaks this low, you get this to break even, and second, if you want to take profit, that's an option. It's not the trade we were looking for. Let me remind you, the trade we were looking for was the one that will break out. And it would have broken out only if this was a contracting flat. Now, contracting flats are rare. So I didn't think it was going to make a contracting flat, but just in case you take the trade, what's the worst case? The worst case, you got break even, which is good. It's like going to the casino, you place your bet, you were wrong about it, but they said, hey, okay, take back your money. And if you can get back your money 80% or 90% of the time when you're wrong, that's actually good. That's the deal you want. You'll be living in that casino if that is the case, right? So it actually is the case using this method. You took this trade, it didn't drop to where you wanted, it go back, you get back your money. Congratulations. Now this morning we saw this, it's gonna come here and there's a good chance this will break the top. We did see this, remember I said there's a possibility it'll come back with this one, make a flat, and then we are gonna expect this to come here. We really wanted to break the top because now that you have this complete flat in here, the break of that top will tell us this is the trade. So you don't have to do anything now. You literally just have to wait. And this is the perfect pattern. Now, here's the thing. Can this one come here and work its way up to the top like Swiss did, like the Swiss yen did, and then come back here and then go? Absolutely. I would never buy this. See, that's the point. It's not that it can't do that. It's that that's not your trade. You're not trying to say this correction will go back to the top of this structure because we don't know that. That's rare. It doesn't always happen like that. Most times, when you are at the very high end, I'm talking about daily and weekly high. When you're at the daily and weekly high, and these are dailies and weekly high, just in case, you probably wouldn't know that because we actually do that. So we're here, we're at a daily high point. This is a daily high and a weekly high in that structure. So this impulse that came down and we are correcting that impulse has a high probability of dropping through this structure. Now, if I'm on the weekly, this would be about 5 trades, daily trades we can take. Right? There's a big move to go down, and we can end up taking a lot of trades on that big move going down. So think of your first trade as break even, no problem. Let's go get the second one. Right? So what we're looking for the second one is actually, and you can see previously we traded this. I think we got a break even on that one because this came back up. We traded this one. Look at that drop. Right? We traded this. I think we had a flag here, we had a flag here, and we had a flag here, which was 2 break even before you actually get the drop. The same thing we're doing here. We're looking at these patterns. I think even this one we traded because we saw this. So the same thing here. We're trying to get this to go down. And our first trade could actually be this. If we have any pound news today, that would be an amazing trade we'll be looking for. Do we have any pound or yen news today? Let me just see. Sorry. Today is Tuesday. We have US dollar news, 7 o'clock. We'll probably trade that. Tomorrow, I think we have a lot of news. Let me see. Tomorrow we have US dollar news, CAD news, US dollar news, and you have Aussie news in the night time. So those you trade. So nope, we don't have it. But that doesn't mean it's not going to drop. That means the probability of this dropping down to the bottom here is about 80%. If you take this one and this drop, this has a less probability. Structurally, this is not so much a flat. This is exactly a flat. So we're looking for that trade. And like I said, 80% of the time, these patterns are perfect. 20% they're not that perfect. So I wanted to go and break the top because we haven't broken the top again, and that would be a problem trying to sell it. So we're looking at this as a possible running flat, go up to the top, break the top, and then we want this straight to the downside. If for whatever reason, again, we get a flag, remember this flag here? If for whatever reason this gives me a flag here, we'll sell it. We will assume that this is still a contracting flat and we will sell it. So come back to the 15 minutes. For now, I think this is a consolidation for upside. We'll see. I'm looking at this as the bigger consolidation. If I'm wrong about it, then, and we get a flag, we'll definitely go for that trade. I think this could, sorry, wrong one. I think this could come a little more here and then upside. Any flag like this will sell. So let's wait on that structure. Those were the 3 trades we actually took. I think there were another trade that actually triggered afterwards. No, this is a trade we're looking at right now. And you can actually move this up a little. You can put that entry here now. Again, this would be an aggressive trade. You can move the entry up here to this level. This is a trade from this morning. We think this could go down some more. So let's see. Remember, the stop for this trade, you'll have to use a bigger stop at this level, which is the top of the impulse. And because this could do a few more of this before it goes. So if it drops through that bottom, you want the trade. The trade is a big trade. It's going to go all the way to the bottom. So if it drops and breaks this low, this is the trade we're looking for. So let's see, we've got a flag. So those are the trades we actually looked at yesterday that we were tagged in and we traded. Now let's go look at the trades that we had setups for from this morning in our trading room. Pong still valid for the upside. Right now, if you were tagged on the Pong yesterday, which I didn't think you were tagged, and if you're tagged on this one yesterday, you would close that trade here this morning and re-enter the top. So it's still a valid trade for upside. It did tag, it's pulling back. I don't think it's going to go really fast. It's still valid. You keep it. It's only 1 hour that tagged you. So we will stay with this trade and we're still targeting this. We'll wait some more. Now, the possibility is it can pull back like this. So we're keeping the stop here. But the possibility is this can pull back here, make a running flat and go there. Right? So this pullback itself, if it stays here for a while, we'll close the trade. But if it's pulled back, you'll just have to survive it. Don't put the stop lower. The stop here is at this point, this is the impulse. I don't think they're going to go lower. The bigger stop is here, but we don't need to. Most likely, if they do, they'll do something like this. If this one was a regular flat, since we broke the top, it's going to probably just come back to about that level and then upside. So if you're not in the trade, you don't take the trade now. You wait. You wait for that to pull back. But if you're in the trade, we will show you how you manage these trades again. We're looking at the yen for a possible upside, because that is if this stays here. If this stays here from this point, there is a chance it's going to go up, break the top. So that is a trade, go break the top. If it comes lower, which means if this drops lower than this is not an entry, that is just showing you the low. And that is the stop for this one. So if this comes here lower, we will take off this trade, we will let it go back up, and then we'll sell. The sell to the downside is a big one. The trade to the downside is a much bigger one, because if this goes up, the only thing we think it's going to do is tag that top again. I don't think it's going to go very far. If this goes up, I expect it to just probably tag the top and then come back down. The trade to the downside would be a bigger trade, because first we could come back and retest the low if we think this is the running flat. If that is not the running flat, we'll get a sharp wave here, then we'll go back up and then we'll drop. Because we're looking at this more as a consolidation for one more low and then go up. If I'm wrong about it, which means if this is all the pullback on the weekly, that's a long story. If I go to the weekly, it will take too long. But if that's all the pullback on the weekly, then this will go up quite a lot. And that is why the buy also is a good trade. So we have an entry order to buy here, and we'll tell you what we do with that trade. By this afternoon, you will know. If you're following us, and I think you should join all the sessions you possibly can join, because then you'll have a clear understanding how we look at patterns and how we trade these patterns, right? And you will probably be able to make a educated decision whether you would like to be with our group. So let's go. I'm going to go through all of this as we go along with them. So let's start with the dollar index. Dollar index, pretty much doing exactly what we wanted it to do. That is come down here. It's not really a sell, but if you sold it, let's assume you took a break even out of it. We were just waiting for it to come and break this low. Right? I'll take this out. That was a sell setup, but worst case is you got break even. So I'm going to put it here. We wanted to drop and break that low, because when it breaks the low, we will start to look for the, please mute yourself when you join. Yes, good. Sorry about that. So when it breaks the low like this, we will start to look for the upside of that trade. Right? Because we think this is exactly the same pattern we had here. Now, the only time if you sold that yesterday, you got break even. The only time you're actually going to take a long-term trade to the downside on that is if it breaks this low and start to consolidate here, and then we will look at that trade to the downside. All right, so let's wait for this. We're looking upside on that. Silver, we're consolidating. We're looking downside on this, which means I think this could crawl its way back up to the top, and we're looking for the sell. We didn't take any trade above the top yesterday, which is the right thing, and we could take a trade here if we get it. It's going to be a small 15-minute trade if we get a setup to trade it. So It's not really, it did pull back, but it's not really a flat. I wouldn't go with this yet as a flat for that. But if this pulls back here some more, then we'll consider whether this is worth taking that trade to the upside. So it's not the best ideal trade setup. If we don't get the real setup we want, we'll just let it come, break the top, and then we'll look for the sell setup. The bigger picture is downside so far, right? So far, this structure looks downside. So we just have to wait and see when we retest the top what happens. We don't have the ideal buy setup. It would be a good buy though, but I don't like that setup for the buy. This is a deep pullback way back into this, and it's not really a flag. What I'm looking for is a flag. A flag would be the ideal thing to trade. So let's wait and see. You're getting a flat here, not a flag. So yesterday, this came down a little more. We were expecting that because we were expecting a move down like this. So let's assume that was the move. If that is the move, then this would start to go up, right? Well, what if that is not enough? What can it come lower, a little lower? And it seems like they're aiming for a little lower because this starts to look like a flat. Right? This is starting to look like a flat forming here for downside, which means we can drop one more and then go. I'm not sure we want this sell on this because it doesn't look like they're going to start a big downside. I don't think this is all a consolidation. If we were to get a sell setup, where would we put it? No, I don't really see the sell. The buy would be a good idea, but I don't see the sell setup here. This one is pretty deep for the buy. A good flag would have worked. So I think we just wait, because if you put a buy setup above this top, not the best idea. The buy setup should have been here. So when it goes there, come back, you can get break even. So we'll just wait on this. Just leave it alone. It looks more downside. Actually, you can put a sell. At least we'll show you how to manage it. So you can put a sell setup here. If we're right about this being a flat and it drops through the bottom, it'll probably do this and go back up. Now, if you're not a seasoned trader with good success rate and ability to manage these trades, don't take these trades. I'm going to put it on just to demonstrate to you how, if you're taking this trade, what you would do with it when it starts going back up, how you're going to close the trade. It's not really a good trade because I still think we're going up. I still think there's more upside to this. I don't think this is all a correction and we're just going. I think most likely, even if they come down, even if it comes here, it's going to just break that low and go back up. If it keeps going from here, we'll let it break the top and then we'll look for the sell. Euro came back to the top. So yesterday we told you why we're not buying the euro, although we assumed that it could go back up because there was no risk to reward in that trade. You will be risking too much to get very little reward. It's making a flat to the top there, which tells me that they might just go one more. Right? It could go one more up. This is a really sharp move and it has nothing to go with anything. I don't think all of this would be the bigger expanding flat. That would be too much. So I think at some point, if we break that up, we're coming back here. Now, whether we come back here to make a bigger flat and then continue to go up would be a different story, or whether we're going to come back here and drop through the bottom. Right? Those are the two things. The bigger picture of this is this. Let me just show you. Is this. So if and when it comes back here and we go back up there, all we'll have is a big flat here for downside. This is not an impulsive move trying to go up. Impulsive move going up, do this. See that? They kind of go up really sharp. So I think right now we're just stuck in the sideways. Let's see what happens. Now, this could end up being a flat. This could end up being a corrective structure, which means it will go up, but not like the way we think. It could come here and then go back up there and then come here and work its way up like that. In that case, we will, once we figure out it's doing that, we'll start buying it from the lows going up. Would we consider the sells? We might consider the sell, depends on the range of the trading. So right now, if we get a sell setup, we'll take it, but we want this to go back and break the top. You want this to actually go break the top, then come back, give you a flag here, and that would be a trade here. Pretty much like this one. Get a flag there, and then we look for a trade. I don't think we've broken through the top as yet. We broke through that top. You can make an argument. If this one is higher, you can make an argument that this is the move coming down, because this could be the flat that actually ended that structure. Well, once it comes here, if we get a flag, we'll consider that this is the top and this is going down. I think they're all pretty equal. Let's see which one is higher. I'm looking at these tops here to see which is higher. This one is higher. It's a few pips higher. So if we assume that this flat is over, if we assume that this was the flat, and this is the final impulse and we're coming down, then all we would need here is a flag for the sell. So we get a flag, we'll go for the sell setup. Let's wait on that one. The sell will bring us back to the low. It's a running flat, so we're not necessarily going to break the low. We're probably just going to come to the low. So I'll put this now. Since we broke the top, I'll put it to the bottom because we want to come back to the bottom here. Fun? I already showed you that trade. It's pulling back, and like I said, it's probably going to pull back most likely for this move down. Come back here. It still has to go back to the top and then break the top. Aussie. If it goes back to the top from here, by the way, let me show you that one. If it goes back to the top here and it stays there within the next couple hours, we'll close the trade for break even. Aussie. A little more down. We're making a running flat. I'm not looking at this as a contracting flat. So I think this coming down is still a correction. And at some point it goes back there and then drop. So we're going to be looking for this as a flat and then downside. We know there's one up move and the pound likely is going to happen. The euro might come down and go back up. That is possible, or just keep dropping from there. We'll see. But I think this has to go back up because I'm not going with a contracting flat as yet. Right? So we'll see. If you sold that yesterday to break the low, well, you got a break-even trade because it didn't go very far. New Zealand. This is a sell setup. You can take this trade if you want. It's a very short-term trade. This would probably break the low. This is the impulse up. So this has to go back up, make that move, and then drop. Now, whether this comes and break the low like the Aussie, we don't know that, but there is an up move here because this is not all the correction. Not by any stretch of the imagination would you put that as all the correction. Now, can it make a running flat? Yep, it can probably drop here, break this low, go back up there, give us this running flat, and then go. We have an example here for you to look at. So this is telling us this up move that we're looking at is no longer going to happen. It will go back up, but the deeper this comes, the more we think of it as a flat. So the deeper this comes here, the more we think of this just going back up to the top there, not as an impulse. I mean, not as the bigger impulse, but just as an impulse to create a flat. One more down, and then we see for the upside. The upside is still going to happen, right? It's just whether now it's going or there's going to be one more flat down, right? I still think this is going to go up. We just need to wait and see whether this is the one. Actually, if this doesn't go very deep, it could still go up very high, which means if this just tipped the low, if this just comes here, tip the low here, and then, reversed, we'll look for the buy setup. This buy is still valid. See, it never tagged that buy. Most times, if you're in a correction, you're not going to break the last impulse. So we'll wait and see what happens here. I don't think the sell will give us a good risk to reward trade. If we get a little flag, we'll give it a try. If we get a flag here, you don't want to take this because this can go back up, right? So this entry order, you take it off. If they're making a bigger flat to the upside, you don't want it to tag you there, right? That's definitely what you're looking for. So if this is a small running flat and they want to go back up, they'll retest the top, come back here, give us a flag and then down. If this is the top, come here, give us a flag and down. So I think it's the top, so we'll wait for that flag. Wait for a small flag for an aggressive trade. We'll see that. Yen. We're still looking for the upside. It's still possible upside here. This looks like a perfect little flat for one more up and breaking this down. So the trade to the upside is still valid. We have the entry order there already. CAD, you can still stay away from it because I don't think it's ready for the upside. It's going up. You're still in this consolidation here. And I don't think this down move is finished. So we'll probably come back here and then go. There is going to be one more down move here. Swiss is the surprising one. It keeps going down a lot. This could go down from this point. I have no reason why it can't go down from that point. It could also be a running flat because we do have this one that is open. We can look at this one like this, or we can look at it as separate one of its own. Now, if this is going to go back up, we will get a flag here and we'll buy it. But if it's making a small running flat for downside, we can sell it. So that becomes a very safe sell setup. It is the safest trade you're ever going to take on the sell side once you think of it as a running flat. So I explained this yesterday already, and it's the same principle when you're trading running flat. Now, this is coming up here, and we expected it to be like this. If you think that is a running flat, you put an entry order here to sell once it goes back a little more. Now, two things are going to happen. It's either is a running flat and it drops to the bottom. That's your trade. Your stop is going to be here. Or it is not a running flat. This one belongs to something else. I don't know, this one or this one. And it's going up. But you don't have a buy setup. The only time you get a buy is if it makes a flat. And if it stops to make a flat, it's never going to tag you. So the only way you get tagged in a trade like that is if it actually is what you think it is, a running flat. Right? Now, can it tag you as a running flat and start pulling back? Now, that's the risk. And that is why you need to know whether this has a lot more to go to the downside before you trade it as a running flat. Before you take that trade, you'll have to decide whether this has a lot more to go down or whether this can go back up. Right? Now, both of those are possible. So if you're going to take that trade, you'll have to manage it with a lot of care. See, this is what wave analysis does. It gives you the options of what could happen with the next previous move, with the next coming move. It gives you the possibilities of what pattern you can see. And then you make the decision on the trade itself. Right? And if you use that analysis, 80% of the time, you're always going to be on the right side of it. Right? It's not about jumping in every trade you see and everything that is moving, because this is moving up. But if you jump in the buy, most times traders do that. Oh, it's going up, so I'm in the buy. And then it starts to drop and they're looking for where is the exit because they don't have a stop. Because if you put a stop here in a buy here, you're likely going to lose that trade. So they don't want to lose the trade, and then you put in the other side. It's more of understanding everything and then weighing your risk to rewards and then decide if you're going to take the trade. So this could go down more. I think we'll take that trade when we go. Aussie yen. Okay, drop through the bottom. It's even still going more. It could go a little lower to this. Within this structure here, we're not going to sell it as yet. Right? Within this structure, we're not selling it because the last correction like that actually went up. So we're still looking at this as a correction. I still think this looks like a correction. So I'm still expecting one more up to break these stops and then the downside. Now, if I'm wrong about that, which I doubt it is, but if I'm wrong about that and this is the way it's coming down slowly like this, then it has to break through the structure, consolidate under the structure, and now we will treat that as a sell setup to the downside. Only now that this slow move down will tell me that, you know what, oh, this is actually going down as an impulse, only it's going down really slow. So as of now, that drop there means we're still within this. This one we saw this, that was a drop, it go back up. So let's see whether this goes back up. Right? There is no sell setup there for that trade. There was a small flag yesterday on this one. If you took it, you probably closed the trade already. Swiss yen. So we need a flag to sell this. And once we get a flag, we'll go with the sell because we're expecting it to come back here now. For those of you who just joined us who didn't see, this is what I start with this morning. Remember, I told you should not take the trade because you do not understand this trade, right? Now, some of my traders took it, and if you take it, you either close it on the consolidation here or you take the loss. It is a loss. We will keep, once it goes here, that trade is not a trade you keep. Now, I see that as a running flat, sorry. So that's a whole different story, but we see this as a running flat coming back here and then going up. So if you get a flat here, if we get a flag here, we will sell it. A flag like this or a flag like this would be a sell setup for us. So let's see if we get the flag and then we'll go with that trade. So it's still a sell, but now structurally it will change. Now structurally, once it comes to this level, we're expecting this to go back at least one more up. This here should go back one more up. We don't have to break this low because we broke the top. CAD yen. Good. We actually came much deeper than I expected. So if you're in the trade, if some of my traders took this one here this morning, if you took that trade, you probably move your stop really, really tight. You should already be out of that trade because this would definitely go back up. We're going to be looking at this as something like this now. Now that you break the low, probably look at a running flat. I don't think that running flat is valid because of this correction. When you get that deep correction like that, you're thinking bigger running flats. So there is a good chance it's going to go back here. And if it does, then we would look for the sell setup because this sell setup was pretty small. That was this morning and that's gone. So this trade is taken off for break even. Although it's dropping now, if you took that trade, you should have closed it yesterday for positive break even. Because once it stays there so long, it goes back up and it stays there, we close the trade. Right? Because this consolidation here tells me, okay, if you want the trade, you have to wait for this next pattern to complete itself and then go for the trade. So it's pulling back. Let's see if it comes back to the top there, and then we repeat the process to then we sell it. So you will see us sell the same thing again today, but this time it's going to be a little different pattern. All right, so let it go back up. We close the trade for break even, and we will look for the sell again. It doesn't matter that it breaks that slow. I will just probably look at this as a running flat. All right, once it comes there, we look for the sell setup. Euro yen. Okay, it's at the top, so it could come down. This could come down some more. It could even go. I'm looking at this as a bigger pattern forming here. All right, they could come back here. And it might even come lower than that. And then we're looking for the upside. Right? So now we know Swiss yen looks upside. We know Aussie yen looks upside. We know CAD yen looks upside. We know Euro yen looks upside. So on the bigger picture, all these bigger flats are lined up for at least one more impulse to the top. And we know where the Euro yen is going. The daily structure tells us they can come to the top there, right? Which is this is a corrective structure. So we're going to break this top first, which is this one is going to break that top. And then it could break this top and then go down. Right? We don't know whether they're going to break that top, but that is possible because we're in this structure. So if you were following me years ago, and you probably, some of you were, you would remember when we did this. We thought this was the one that is going to come back to the top here, right? That was our thought process. You got one, you got two, they're going to go back. And then they came a little down, they make this one, and then they came a little more down. And that is okay. This can continue to go. This could have actually came back all the way to the low and then go back up. But it still goes back up. You're just determining where you think that structure ends, but it came much lower. So the same thing here now. We thought this was going to drop, right? At first, I thought when they break this top here, once that top is broken, they will drop. Well, then we thought this one is going to drop, and then we thought this one, well, this one get very corrective. So we changed that pretty early. And now we're expecting this to go break that top, and then we're looking for this move down, which will happen. It's just a matter of time whether it's going to happen or not. You can see the pattern that is going to come back down. So we're just going to get this to go. The trade we want is to go break that top, and then we're looking for this trade down, trading this back to the downside. So go back to the 1 hour. These patterns work on almost all time frame. So wait for this here. No, Pong is not downside. Somebody's asking. Pong is not downside as yet. It has to go back up. This is coming down on a running flat. It's going to go back up. So wait. I don't know if we'll get any setup here for to sell it, but if we get, we'll sell it, and then we'll look for the upside because this is a bigger flat. Right? So we'll wait for it to come, and then we'll go for that trade. Pong Yen, it's downside. The Pong Yen is downside. It's coming back without breaking the top. Okay, so let's assume they're not going to break the top and they're going to go for a running flat. We wait for a flag. We wait for this flag before we sell. The advantage of that flag is it does what yesterday did. It gave you a chance to break even. So if this is the contracting flat today, because it didn't break the top, then we'll go. If that is not a contracting flat, this will still go back and break the top, right? I don't know. This one is too big now to probably go with more bigger corrections. We'll have to look at the internals of these corrections to see whether it's possible we're still in the correction. As of now, I'll treat this as the end of the correction. Not this one, sorry, take that out. I'll treat this one here as the end of the correction, and this is the up move because we actually broke on the top. So let's wait and see. We can't sell this here. You just can't jump into this because they'll tag you and go right back up. So we'll have to wait for this to actually make a flag before you sell. Here in New Zealand, this has one more up, definitely one more trade up. And when we break the top, we have to go and break this top. Once that top is broken, we're looking for downside. Structurally, this is how it looks, right? So you kind of make, this is the lowest point. You go, you make some flats, you come back, you make an impulse, correction, go, impulse, correction, go again. This is an impulse down. This is the first one that is an impulse to the downside, right? Very impulsive. So when this break the top, we don't have anywhere to put that impulse, which means we're coming back here and we'll probably go back up, making this a running flat, right? So we can either trade this to the top, which might not be a bad trade. Let's see if we can get the trade set up for that one. If you're putting an entry to buy that, you have to put an entry here. We can use this low as the stop. because I don't think they're going to, if they're going to break that top, they're probably not good. So you can use the low as a stop, and you're only targeting the break of this stop. So once it gets here, you put that to break even. If it goes farther, good for you, you take profit. If it doesn't go farther, just like the pound yen yesterday, you take break even on the way down and then we sell it. It's a very short trade. There isn't a big trade to the upside. Because once it breaks that top, it will turn. Euros, we don't have anything. It's kind of going up, but you'll just have to leave it. It's already at the top. There's nothing to do there. Euro pound, we don't have anything. There's a good chance it's going to go make a new high. This here might go make a new high. But I don't like the trade. It's a buy setup. I don't like the trade because we don't have any target to the upside. There's no structural part where it has to go there and then come back. So I would stay out of that trade. And I would tell you probably do the same thing. We have a sell on the pound Swiss. You probably tagged in it. So we'll keep this a while. So your stop for this has to be here. That's above the impulse. And the trade is a big trade to the downside. So it's literally, we'll have to stay with this a lot longer. Right? We're coming to break this low. We'll see how it goes. Pound CAD. If you're tagged on the pound CAD, we'll look to exit this trade because we're looking at this as a possible, either now it could be a possible channel going up. It has to break that top for some point. So just like the dollar pound that is pulling back, I wouldn't be surprised if this goes, which means the pound Swiss will have to manage really carefully, right? Because if it's going to go back up, we want to exit that trade early. I think there's a higher probability for this to go back up there. Break the top and then come down. We're looking at this structure. Right? So the chances of this going and break that top first and then come back is higher. You just got tagged, so we'll just wait an hour or two more and then we'll make that decision what we do with the trade. Let's go with natural gas. Pound Wars, we don't have any trade in it. We don't have anything on this because it's already at the top, so we'll leave that alone. Natural gas, it's pulling back. Yesterday, we didn't sell these little ones here because we are waiting for a bigger consolidation. So if we get a bigger consolidation here or a higher move to the top, then we will sell. We were trying to buy that yesterday if it goes back up, but it didn't go. This one actually went and it dropped, so I assume they'll consolidate to the bottom. If we get that consolidation, it will have to be a really big consolidation up, and then we'll sell it. We could still consider the buy, but with this piece here, you'll have to wait. If we had the flag here this morning, this is a buy you could consider because you'll be in the first impulse up. But because it's dropping like this now, it could end up doing this, and you'll just be sideways here. Oil made a new high, but the buy is pretty, the risk to reward and the buy would be no good because you'll have to put, yesterday we looked at it, you'd have to put an entry here, you'd have to put a stop here. The target is here, which means if they go up, they'll just break this top and drop. Structurally, this is a big flat like this. So that move wouldn't give you a risk to reward trade. Right? This is what you're doing right now. Now, they may or may not break that top. It's not necessary that they break the top because we don't know how this structure is going to be developing as a more complex structure. So we'll wait and see. If it breaks the top, I will just let it break the top and then we'll look for the sell. We're looking for this straight to the downside with this one, right? If it doesn't break the top and it starts to come down, we'll still sell it back to the bottom. So any sell setup in the oil, we will take. We don't have one. Yesterday we had one, it didn't go. We don't have one. This is more of a flag for upside. You can literally see this is a flag for upside. So if you want to buy this flag, put an entry there, put a stop here, go for this trade. That would be a buy setup that has risk to reward in it. But if you put an entry here and you put a stop here just to go for this, you don't have risk to reward in that trade. S&P 500, we have a sell setup here, and it looks like this trade is going to work. So we got an impulse, we get a flag, we will go for the sell, either as a correction or retest of the low. I think yesterday, those who were in, I showed you that we have this sharp move, and we were anticipating that this could make that sharp move. We might look at that as a running flat there if this starts to drop, because if it drops, it's going to come back to the low. It is still within this corrective structure, even if this comes back here. Now, what would make a difference in this trade that will change it to, let's say, a buy setup? Well, once this gets to the top, there you see that little flag there. Once that little flag comes back all the way to the top here, we will wait for this to pull back. We'll take off this trade, and now you get a flat. And that flat means upside. If it doesn't go to the top, why is it a sell? Well, if this just come and break this top here and drop, we won the trade. Right? Because the downside is pretty huge if that happens. The same would be for NASDAQ. This one is even much better because the consolidation is much lower. The lower the consolidation, the better the trade for us. And US 30, but the US 31 is pretty high, so I'll probably pull this out. I'll take this off. And if this might be the indication of what they're going to do, you want to see this break the top. Right? That breaks the top, pull back like this, and now we have a buy setup for the upside. Right? Once we get the flat, we have a buy setup. Any new traders in the room who've never seen a wave analysis work, I can show you an example here. So you got this here. See, they pull back, they came down. You wait for that pull back there, you get a flat, and now you go for the sell. That's the setup we were looking for. I think I can go and show you a few more in the past so that you'll get an idea why we're looking at patterns the way we're looking at here. Might be a good example. This is a smaller version of it where they make this consolidation, come here, drop here, then go. But this is a bigger version. You get this, you go back to the top, you wait for it to come back here, and then you look for that trade up. Here is a good example. There's one here. We got to move up. We came back down here. We wanted this to go and break the top, and then you get this trade. So remember this one, because that is exactly what we're looking at when we're looking at this piece here. See? If this goes back all the way to the top there, then it has to come back here. Now you have this flat, and this flat is upside. But if it drops from right here, it's downside. The trade is short to the downside. I don't like this. I like these two because the impulses are big. See, this is a huge impulse. And this one is a huge impulse. So far as those impulses remain that large in relationship to the consolidation, we'll sell it. DAX, close and re-enter. The trade from here yesterday was this. What we do when it doesn't go is we close it and we put an entry order above the top. So now you're not trading this flag anymore. You're trading this flag. And if this flag does exactly the same thing, which means breaks out and stays here, we close the trade again. It has to break out and go. Like this one. See this one? That broke out and it went. That's the trade. When you get trade like that, then you get a trade. When you're like this, you don't have a trade. It's not going. You have to get out of the trade, re-enter it, and then go. So right now you should be tagged in that trade. Tesla. I think Tesla has a short-term sell, very, very short-term. If you can trade this short-term, I don't know if you can. It's just to break this low. See? And then from there, we will see if they go back up. I think the higher probability is they're going to go make a new high and then come down. Because this would be part of a 4-hour or daily running flat. I think I showed that structure also. So we're looking at this sharp move here. 1, 2, 3. And this sharp move, 1, 2, 3, and then downside, making this a running flat. Now, rare cases, they drop from here. So you can take the trade and hope that it drops from there, and that would be a good one. If it doesn't drop, you have to get out for break even, which means if it only breaks this low and start to go back up fast, get out for break even. Okay, so I'm going to do Bitcoin and Ethereum, and then you will tell me. Yesterday, I told you there's still consolidation. They stayed in consolidation. I wouldn't be surprised if they actually break this top again and then drop. So we're kind of doing this right now. And when you do that, you tend to drop. So the bigger picture would be a sell setup like this. This would be the same. I think you can see the structure that it's consolidating within this structure, right? Now, I wouldn't be surprised if this actually goes back up like this some more and then come down, this straight down, right? So this straight down. This was your flat, that's a trade down. So if you make this flat, this straight down. Once you stay within this structure, the possibility is outside, up above the structure. So this could be your trade setup. Either you get it from here or you get it from here to trade this. So there's a sell setup forming there. Majority of them have that sell setup. So you would have to tell me where you actually see a trade setup and we would look at those. Or if you're already in a trade and we would look at those so that we don't go through everything, because then we'll be stuck with analysis and no trades, right? So we're looking at some trades. We're tagged in some trades. We're tagged in the DAX already, right? This trade just tagged us. I think we're tagged in one of the pound trades. We've tagged in the pound dollar to the upside. All right, we're tagged in this trade. And what other trade? One more trade we tagged in. Those two, right? So let's go. Those two trades we tagged in, we might be able to manage them right in here before we leave, before we close the session. If not, we're going to go OP USDT. We didn't do all of those, but let's see. We're not going to do too many cryptos because then we'll be stuck at analyzing all the cryptos you guys trade, and we really don't have the time for that, right? So we're going to only look at trades that we trade because this is a trading session, right? It's not only analysis. Later in the New York session or after the session, we can look at some of those. So first we want to deal with is trades that we are in, right? So let me do this very quick for you. It was OP USDT, because most of you trade this all by yourself. Nobody else trade this, right? So we can't change the trading room for one person. Okay, why is this stuck? Let's go. It's the same thing. Nothing changed. All the cryptos, they seems to be doing exactly the same thing. See, it's downside. Big picture, you're in this one. We actually looked at this before. So right away, immediately you're thinking this should probably come back to this level. Now, would it go back up? I think that's a possibility. You're coming from the low. You already looked at this yesterday. You're coming from a low point here. I don't have all the charts, so I have no idea what this is, where it's coming from, or where it's going. But this consolidation looks like coming here and then going back up. Look for the downside today. It's more of a sell setup. Okay, so let's go back to trading. Tell me what charts you're looking at in terms of trading. Did I miss anything from the YouTube side? I think it's only BNB. Somebody asked first, so we can look at BNB. We have it on the list. I think we have this on the list. Yeah, this one we have. So this is going sideways, downside. Yesterday was downside. It's kind of pulling back here, so you would have to wait to see. We did make a new low, right? So wait to see the depth of this consolidation. If it stays shallow, you can buy back to the top. So it's a buy setup back to the top of this structure. Let me put it this way. See, eventually this structure will make a move up like this. So there might be a buy setup there now to go do this and then come back down. So let's see in the one, or if you have the trade set up. Why not? You can make an argument for a buy setup here. Put an entry above this stop. Use a stop under the low. And if it goes lower, take it off. So let's assume for a second that this is coming lower here. Take it off, because then they'll do this and drop. There might be still more downside. But if this is the low, we broke that, right? If this is the low to go back up, that buy is a good idea. So we'll put it as a buy for you, and then we'll manage it as we go. I don't know if you're taking the trade. I'm just showing you how we would take this trade. I'll put that as a buy setup when we look for the buy to the upside, right? So let's go. Why I see gold dropping to where? To 1840, because you have a flat. And if that flat, sorry, you have a flat, and if that flat actually breaks, it's gonna break through this low and come here. Then probably go back up. So if the flat breaks out, that's a trade. One more down, right? See that? If that breaks out, if this flat break out of that structure, if it breaks out of this, if this is what we think it is, and this breaks out of the structure, you can come anywhere to around this area here and go back up. There's no specific point. It might even break this low and go back up. The upside is okay. There's a possibility for it to go back up more. I think we're just making a bigger correction here and then go. So I'm looking at this as a possible running flat. Come back somewhere here, I don't know, this level, let's say there, and then go. This sell is not a great sell. It's, if you want to take it and hope that it goes a lot, then yes. But the idea is that if it breaks that flat, it will go down some. You're welcome. Based on gold daily, is there potential for lower to complete that three-wave structure on the daily? We don't need to complete anything. We actually complete the three-wave structure here. We have this. we have this, and we have this. So there's no need to go lower. We're consolidating in this range. See? So this, we're only talking about a few pips movement there. So I would like to see that consolidation go back up, pull back, go up, depends on how this goes. If this goes really fast, that's good for us. If it goes really slow, it will come back here and then go back there, right? As you can see, I showed you this flat here yesterday, and I showed you this flat here, right? So you've got a flat, you got this one, you got this, you go there, you've got a flat here. There's a chance we're making a flat here, right? Up, make a flat, go back to the top. So there's a very good chance this is making consolidation. We just have to figure out what this up move would look like, right? Because we were already breaking out of this one. We already broke out of this. Remember when this was curving and it was going down, I was like, be careful, it's going to start to go up. We had divergence and everything at the bottom, and it kept going down, but now it's turning. So now we're looking for the upside. If this down move is only relative to the fact that it might just do this and then start the upside. So we're looking for a buy setup, actually. The bigger picture is the buy setup. But the most immediate trade, if you want, is this dropping a little. I wouldn't go with the sell setup in it. You see, we didn't put it as a sell, right? I just showed you the possibility. Okay, let's go. What else? Anything else I missed? Let's go. Somebody's asked about using the Skype. The Skype is it will be in all the description of my video, but if you want it, it's MAN. Oh, sorry, I have to put type, right? Type MANGAL 457. Send me a message if you want to join the group. You send me a message. There are two options. You can either become a full member or you can become an installment payer. Installment payer will give you access to these two live sessions. That is the London session and the New York session. If you miss those sessions, you're also getting a recording of the entire thing we do. So every morning in the Asian session, we will come in the room and we'll record all of this. All those trade setups will be recorded, explained, and you would understand where and how you're going to trade it. We do that every morning. Then we do the London session, then we do the New York session, right? So for the person who asked, if you want, that is how you do it. Aussie, New Zealand. Okay, let's go. Somebody asked for Aussie, New Zealand. Let's look at that. Sell setup. Actually, it didn't break the top. It dropped. So we'll just leave this out. That was for the buy yesterday. It didn't go. The bigger picture is the sell. So if this didn't go and you saw that drop in and you sold it, that's wonderful. The bigger picture is it's coming back to this low. Okay, so we would assume that this is over. Let's make the assumption that this is over because it's just dropping more. Wait for any flag and sell. Just wait for a flag and sell. If you can sell New Zealand and you get positive in it, Aussie, New Zealand, sorry, and you get positive swaps, sell it and stay with it. This is the big picture. Let me just show you what the pattern looks like so you'll have an idea what we're looking at. Right, that's the whole correction. This is coming back to the low. So when you go to the daily, the only thing we had was whether that correction is over, they're going to go back one more. It seems it's over, they're not going back anywhere. So now you come to the 4 hour, you can either wait for a 4 hour correction or any 1 hour flag would be a sell. Now that we broke that low, I assume that that is over. It's not going to go back. So you can go into 1 hour and look for sell setups. Any flag, and you'll probably get a flag at some point. You can sell. Some traders should be in this trade from the top. I don't know if they're still in because they were getting positive rollover. If you get positive swaps, you can just sell it and stay with it. Put a small trade on and stay with it. It only gets better for you because it will go down, right? There's no question of whether it's going to go down. And if you're getting positive swaps, then perfect. More downside. We've already completed the bigger correction. I think this is the big correction, right? This is the first move down that we were selling. This is the first one we were selling, right? Now, that's the first move down. This is the correction. I think that correction is over. So any flag you get here now would be a sell, sell, sell. And let's hope that it just comes all the way down without another correction, which means we want a repeat of this to go break the low. And you can get a lot of trades going. Aussie CAD Swiss. Let's start with the Swiss dollar. We're here, and then we're going to the Aussie CAD. Swiss dollar, we're in this structure here, this kind of pullback. So the question is whether this will continue to drop or if it's going to go back up, right? It could go back up, looking at it this way, one more high, then come down. In the bigger picture, it should go down. So we're going to go into 1 hour. You only want the 1 hour trade today, right? So we're going to go to 1 hour and we're putting a sell setup. I explained this already. So this is a sell setup here right now. You can put that as an active sell. Now, here's the thing, that trade might never trigger, right? Because the assumption is that this is going to go lower, and this sharp move would be the equivalent of a running flat here. If that is true, then this will drop to the bottom, keep a stop here, and that is a very good trade. If that is not true, then this will continue to go up. This here will continue to go up, make a flag, and then in the New York session, we'll buy it. So by the New York session, we'll either cancel this trade or you're already in the trade. One of the two things can happen. You're already in the trade or you cancel the trade. So the buy is here, the stop is here, the stop should be here. I mean, I'll put a trade, just a thing here for the stop. We can change the color to red just so you know that's where your stop is and go back to our one. Oh, sorry, I have to change it and move out. So that will be red. And when I put another one, let me put another one, then I can change the color. So I'll change this color now to back to our color and we leave it at that. Take this out. Right? So that's your entry, that's your stop, and your target is pretty low. Way to the downside. That is breaking this low. And that is if the trade goes. So we'll wait. You have an idea. Aussie, that is a Swiss, right? And you want the Aussie CAD. I think Aussie CAD is at the bottom. Let me see. We have Aussie CAD somewhere. Did we keep Aussie CAD on? Aussie yen. CAD. Nope, Aussie CAD was not there. So it should be somewhere at the bottom here, Aussie, New Zealand. Okay, let's add the Aussie CAD here because I can't find it. I'll just add it. So let's take this out. Aussie CAD broke out. That was a buy to come back to retest the top. It didn't actually break the top. It came close to the top, but it didn't break it. So if we get a flag here, we can sell. Let's see what the bigger structure looks like. This will eventually go up, right? This down move coming down here would eventually, but it can drop some more before they go. So let's see if we have a sell setup in it. Take this out here. We didn't break the top and we didn't break the low. So I'll stay with this as correction, which means I will not be selling it at this point. I'll not be selling it into the low. There's no point selling into the low. If you want to sell that into the low, wait until it goes back up. Wait until this go back up there and then sell it. Here's a good example. See, when you get this and it come back to the low, you don't sell. You wait for it to go back up if you want. So when it comes here, you don't sell again. You wait for it to go back up. And now when you get that flat, these sells become valid. So let this go back up to the top, make a flat, and then the sell becomes pretty similar to what we're waiting for in the Aussie dollar. Go back up to the top and then sell it from the top rather than from where it is. Right? That would give you the trade. So let's go. The CAD yen is going down much lower. So Swiss yen is going without us too. Let me see the Swiss yen. We don't have a flag on it as yet. We're waiting for that. It will make, I hope it makes a flag somewhere because it's coming down without any flag. Even in the 15 minutes, we don't have a flag. No, we don't even have a 15 minutes flag. So we need some kind of a flag here, right? Pull back, something like this before we can go with the sell, because you sell it, it could go right back up. So wait for the flag and then we'll go with the sell. I think the CAD yen will have to get a flag too. It's coming down. So it broke the low. It's still will probably, we'll still have to get either a flag under the low here now or a pullback. I think a pullback would be the better option because this is a big correction inside. So if we get a pullback, we'll get a better trade. So it's still going where you want it, but by rule, you don't have a trade set up unless you took the 15-minute this morning. Let's see, Pang Yen. Okay, didn't break the top, so we'll wait until it makes a flag. If it makes a flag like this, we sell it. Anywhere you get a flag, it's a sell. If it goes back up, we'll wait for it to break the top, then look for a flag and sell. But we need a flag before you can sell it. Let's see what Euro Yen is doing. Also coming down. We didn't break this top, right? I didn't think we broke the top, so we'll have to wait. Don't jump into the trades while you're moving, because sometimes when you jump in is when it's going to turn back, right? You have to have the confirmation that there is a sell setup there for you to go. And let's see Pound Swiss. Pound Swiss is pulling back somewhat. So it's still within the consolidation. They're still within this flat pattern. Your stop is here. So as long as it stays in this flat, if it comes back to the low, we'll close the trade and put another entry. Okay. This comes back, exit the trade. So two ways this is going to work. Let me show you the setup, and I'll show you the trade. We're looking at this as a possible running flatter channel. Two ways, both are the same structure, right? Either a running flat or a channel is the same structure. The running flat means this is going to break out, and that is a trade. If it is a channel, they normally stay in here for a while, go back up slowly, and start to come back. We'll close this trade for break even. Right? So to know which of those structure it is a channel or running flat, almost impossible. They look very much alike. Structurally, they look alike. Both of them would end up going up some more, right? The difference is this one would go faster to the top, and this one would go slowly to the top. So your chance to exit the trade is still pretty high. Now we will know if it's a running flat, it's going to go really fast. If it starts to slow down and go sideways, we'll close the trade. See? So even when you get into a trade and you're expecting that one to take off, and a lot of times you get into a trade that you're expecting to take off and it doesn't take off. And that's where you become a trader. How you manage that trade will make you a professional trader. Because everything else, if you take a trade and it goes, you don't have to do anything, right? Literally, that's a trade. It worked exactly the way you wanted it to work. So you don't have to do anything. You're not really worried about it. It's going to give you profit. And it could be a good guess, or it could be you actually have a good trade. The problem with why traders lose their account is not because they didn't find a good trade. It's because they got in the trade and it's not doing what they expected to do. And that's when the panic comes in, because now you don't know what it's going to do. If you're not aware of what it should do next, how it will structurally develop next, you end up in panic. Unknown will put you in panic. But you see the way we treat it. I'm looking at the structure. Okay, good. No worry. I see what the structure is doing. And I know how I'm going to manage my way out of this trade. Right? You see this dropping and you start to panic, right? I see this dropping and I'm like, okay, I see a possible running flat or a channel forming there. So I'm trading with a level of calmness that you probably, if you don't understand wave analysis, will not be able to do. Because for you, the drop is unknown. For me, the drop is a known structure. I understand what it's doing and I understand where and how I need to exit that. That's the difference. You're trading from knowledge, right? And if you study these charts enough, like we did, if you get the vast amount of knowledge you're going to get in my group, then you will learn to do it by yourself. Euro Pound short. Somebody wants a Euro Pound short. Euro Pound. Let's see. We don't have the short as yet, and I'm not taking this for a bias yet. So here's the question: what if this starts to go down back? The bigger picture is downside, right? I want this sell setup, but once this comes here and start to go back there and consolidate there, the chances are it is going to make a new high before it comes. Now, this is a buy setup, actually. I am not buying it, but it's a buy setup. The reason I'm not buying it, because structurally, I don't see where it has to go. I can show you the bigger structure, and I can show you the entire structure. This is the big structure. We've got a really, really sharp move down, and then it started to do this. When I see this, I'm thinking downside, right? in any structure, and I can show you on this very chart, if you go back and look at it, if we can squeeze the chart enough, when you see that, you think, let's go back to the daily so you can see exactly what I'm showing you. So when you're looking at an impulse coming like this, and you start to see this, you're thinking downside. So when you get an impulse like this and you start to see this, you're thinking downside. So for me, all sell setups are good. All the buy setups, especially if the buy setup is from the top, is not a good idea. So we have made a move, we made a top, and we're coming down. As far as I look at it, that this looks more like a running flat. Even if you go one more up, makes it look more like a running flat for downside. So I'll just let this happen and look for a sell setup, because the sell setup has a higher probability to go much stronger, much faster, and in the direction I want it to go, right? Now the buy setup, can it go back up high? Yeah, this could probably work its way up more. And, you know, I don't see this as a complete pattern, complete correction, but it could work its way up there, come back here, work its way up, and then I'll get all of this. Every time you break the top, I'm selling. Every time you break the top, I'll look for a sell setup, right? So that's the difference of how the pattern works. So I'm not looking for the buy, although I can see a buy setup, and I'm pretty sure it's going to make a move to the upside. I might regret it because it might do this and then start to come down, right? I might regret not taking that trade, but I'll rather regret not taking that trade and then sell it than actually taking the trade and then it does something like this and start to drop. Right? Now I would regret doing this because I know that possibility. You see, if you know something is going to go wrong and you do it, then you will have to regret that. But if it spikes to the upside, I wouldn't really regret it. I'd look at it and say, well, yeah, that happens, right? But I know the possibilities. And because of that, I'll rather avoid the buy and wait for the sell. The higher it spikes, the better for me, the better my sell becomes. UBI soft, what is that? Is that a cryptocurrency or a stock or something? Give me an idea. Is it right that US 10 contradicts gold? Okay. You ask yourself the same question. So let's say tomorrow, I don't know, let's say the US yen is, right? It's a bond, right? It's kind of, it's not supposed to contradict gold or go against gold by any means. No currency is dictating the value of gold. So because we trade gold with the US dollar, if the US dollar changes its price, gold price will change. If the US dollar changes its value, sorry. So if the value of the US dollar change, the gold price will change. That is if you consider you're trading gold against the US dollar. What if you're trading gold against yen? If the yen value changes, then the yen gold value will change, right? That's all you're saying. Gold has its own value. And there are times when the value of gold changes, right? When the gold value goes up or the value goes down. And it doesn't matter what currency you're trading it against, it's going to go. Now, can the stock, can the bond you're buying actually has any connection to gold or silver or anything else? Just think for yourself. No, not really. It shouldn't. And there's no way they're interfering with each other in any way. Will people take out money from a bond and go and buy gold? You don't know that. I don't know that. Right? We don't know those things. You see a lot of myths in the market. I was starting that series of myths because people say things because they just feel like you can say it and you'll get away with it. But it's so much BS, right? There's so much BS out there in the internet. And, you know, when you get information from the internet, you should think twice before you should think twice before you listen to what I say. And you should do some research. The difference with our group is that, and the reason why that group is so active and so thing with a lot of smart people is because we answer questions and we see, is that a fact? Are these things true? Do these things really hold to the fact? Right? People say all kinds of things on the internet. I mean, if you go there sometime, we were reviewing some videos because we were trying to see what is it we can do to enhance the videos in terms of our video getting more popular. But the amount of crazy things people say to make their video get popular, when we look at it, I was like, no, I can't say that. I looked at some of this and said, but I can't say that. That is really, 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 really dumb, right? But those videos tend to get a lot of views, right? When you say catchy stupidness, people tend to watch it. For some reason, I have no idea. I was watching one of them. I mean, Victor is witness to it. He was watching it with me. And we watched it and it was like, this thing has 1 million+ views. And then we look at this, but I can't say any of that that guy said in the video. Literally, if I say that, I'll rather stop making videos. But that video got over 1 million views. And my videos, they're getting just a couple thousand views. So are people interested in real knowledge, or they're just interested in hypes and nonsense? I don't know. It's up to the people out there. So when you're in the internet listening to things, question what you hear. And then you'll see difference. You know how many people, the guy who actually taught me support and resistance, which is what I pay $5,000 for, was saying that euro, and he was saying that the euro and the pound, they're correlated. They would go the same direction every time. And I was thinking about it, and I was like, well, this doesn't make sense to me, right? That can't be so. So I did the simple thing anybody would do if you're not just listening to him, but you're thinking about what you do, is I took the euro charts, I took the pound charts, and then I took the euro pound charts and put it in between. And all I had to do was look at those 3 charts and said, no, they're not correlated. As a matter of fact, I found a point where pound was dropping like crazy and euro was going up. And that is what moves the euro pound chart. Because if those two are very correlated, the euro pound chart would only go in one direction. Right? It will not make sense. Remember when the Swiss decide they're going to correlate they're going to stick to the euro and they're going to correlate their price with the euro. We know what happened. For a period of time, it went flat with a little up and down. And then what happened? We know, right? So I looked at it and I sent him a copy of those 3 charts. And I said, my friend, they're not correlated. And I showed him the places where they're not. I never heard back. I never heard him said that again while I was there. He never repeated that thing while I was there. I don't know if he keep repeating it after, but while I was there, he never said that again. Because now you're talking about knowledge. The difference between just saying something and the difference with knowledge. Research, knowledge, and facts. Right? Once you start doing that, you can always see, like, stop hunting. Really, if you know how brokers work, if you know how the bigger market works, you know that stop hunting is BS. And anybody who has that knowledge will literally tell you, oh, no, the broker can hunt your stop a little if the price comes very close to it, which means the broker just close your trade. But a stop hunting as a thing that the banks would do and the big boys would do does not exist. So the only way the broker can close your trade, because the broker doesn't move the market, the only way he would close your trade is if you are 3 pips away from your stop, 4 pips away from your stop. Then the broker can say, oh, let's just widen this spread a little more and take you out. But he is not actively doing stop hunting because he cannot move the market. If you're 30 pips away, there's no way he can take your stops out. He is not moving the market. He is praying that it goes against you. And he is hoping that if it goes against you close enough, but not stop you out, that he will help you a little. And he can do that because you signed up for variable spread, which means the spread can be from 0.2 pips to 10 pips, maybe more. There was one broker, somebody was telling us in the night, the spread goes to 60 pips. Now that's a wicked broker. That's an evil broker. You need to leave brokers like that. But we have a guy in our room who was showing us that in the night, the broker would widen the spread to about 60 pips. Why would the broker do that? Because most traders with small stops will keep their trade overnight. And that's a good chance for the broker to take you out both ways. Because when he widened it 60 pips, your 20 pips stop, both sides gone. Now that's just evil, right? That's pure evil. Because that's what a broker does. And there's nothing you can do about it. I had one where I think it was about 80 pips or 90 pips during one of the news event that took out the trade. And I was like, well, 90 pips, that's too much to increase the spread, right? But brokers can do that. So they're not really hunting your stuff. They're just hoping it comes close and then they can do those evil things. Let's go. What are the trades? I'll go through back the trades we are in and what we're going to do with them so you would know. Pound is coming back up, so we will keep an eye on this. I still think it's going to go through the top. So what I'm going to do with this is two ways we're going to treat this. If it stays here longer, like this, I will close the trade. If it goes like this, I will stay with the trade. So it all depends now on how the pound goes, right? So remember, my stop is here. And if I close my trade here, I'll be okay with it. I wouldn't be worried about that. That's for the pound. We are not in the yen as yet, but the yen, the lower this comes, the higher the probabilities we will close this trade. At this point, it is okay. If it goes anywhere lower here, we will close this trade. We will let it come back up and then we'll sell it. That's for the pound. That's for the yen. Swiss, that entry is good. We'll wait to see what happens to it. CAD yen, some of my traders are in this. It's still a sell setup. Some of my traders got the 15 minutes. If you got it, great. Because we have this consolidation here that is so high, and there's a high probability that this would have to go back up like that. Not necessarily, but there's a high probability of that happening. Now, if you don't get that trade, then you have to wait for it to consolidate here, which means if it consolidates here in the New York session, see that consolidation there? In the New York session, when we come back, we will sell this. It is still going to go down. And the bigger picture of this would be that it's going to come here. It's going to come here and then go back up. So with any flag here would become a sell to the low. The stop would be here. It wouldn't be here anymore. It's going to be here with this entry. So we'll get a 1-to-1 risk to reward, maybe a little more than 1-to-1. And then there's a chance it could go back up here. If it breaks through, congratulations, that's a trade we're looking for. But there's a high probability it can go back up because of this consolidation. It goes back up there, make a running flat here, and then comes here and go back up, right? So that is one way the pattern can develop. So now we just wait. Let's see what else. The next trade we have is the pound Swiss, right? This tagged on the sell. This is going sideways. This is going sideways, and it will probably come back here most likely because this is the impulse. The stop for this trade is here, and the bigger trade is all the way to the bottom here. So there's no need to worry about the consolidation if you're tagged with it, right? That's not a problem. And we have an entry in the pound CAD, which also tagged us. So now the pound CAD, it is either going to go out of the structure and you stay with that trade. But if it stays here, I'll close the trade. So it's there for a couple hours already. We got tagged 1 hour, it came down another hour, it's going up this hour. If this hourly candle, which still just started, doesn't break the top, I'll close the trade, right? So it has to break this top. If it doesn't break the top, I will close that trade because it's not going the way I expect it to go, right? So I'll close that trade. I will still look for an entry to the upside, but it's going to be a different entry. And when you come in the New York session, we'll show you that entry. Right, so that is the trades we are in and how we're going to manage them. I think some of our traders should be in the DAX. I didn't trade it, but some of our traders should be in the DAX, and it's going good so far. There's no need to worry. Remember, we traded this flat yesterday. It spent some time here. You close that for positive. If they repeat the same thing here, we'll close it for positive, but we probably wouldn't trade it again because you're making a channel. We can trade that channel, but we'll show you how we do that when we come in the New York session. What we are expecting is a spike to the upside, and this should take off. If it takes off, that is your trade. See? Pretty easy. And one thing you would notice when you're here is the calmness with which we trade and the confidence with which we trade. That is because we have studied these patterns for years. And there is no one out there who is going to show you these patterns better than I do. That's not to brag. That is because I created this method. The way I look at the patterns now, and most of these patterns were patterns we identify. Personally, I identified, and we identified them in our group because we created this system, right? This does not, it uses the wave analysis like the Dow theory and like the Elliott wave theory, but it differs in the rules and how we trade them. And it also differs in some of the patterns we look at. That's the difference. So anybody that has wave trading, wave analysis, wave whatever, took it from me because this is where the wave trading starts. It's no longer Elliott wave trading, it's wave trading, right? So as you can see, it's going, and that's what we expect it to do. So any questions before I go? I can take some questions now in general. It doesn't have to be trading. It could be any questions. A regular flatten USDCHF for sell. Let's see. I don't have that one on, but I can put it in. South African Rand, USD. All right, I think so. That's one. Let's take a one and see how that goes very quick. Actually, yeah, you do have some consolidation here for a sell. Let's see. What's the bigger picture? Where is it going? You need to know where it's going to go in the bigger picture before you take the sell. It could come down. It didn't break the top for the downside as yet, but it could come down. If I would sell it, where would I sell it? Let me see what you would wait for the sell setup. Well, you can do two things. I don't think it's ready to go, but if you think this is all the correction, I would wait for it to come here and make a flag. Make a flag like this, and then go with that flag. Right? This is a big correction, so you want the flag in the correction. That would give you an advantage in the trade. So wait for that to come back, make a flag, and then by New York session, you will get a trade. Okay, any questions? Any questions, YouTube? May we do some analysis on other cryptocurrencies at the end of the New York session? Yeah, we can do that. We can do that, Vic. Who is asking the question? Message retracted.
But that was because more people asking for some crypto.
Oh, okay. I can run through some cryptos now if you guys have the patience for it. Okay, 1 second, guys. Let me just take this call. It could be an emergency. Give me 1 second. Okay, guys, sorry about that. I had to take it. If it calls 3 times, it's an emergency. Yeah, let's go. So everybody up for some cryptos? So go ahead, Vic.
Then we had the SLP USDT and the rare USDT. Those are two that were asked for.
SLP USDT. Okay, let's see this one. Big picture. I'm going to go through them really fast so you can have a quick idea. Okay, this I think I saw one very similar to this. So here's the deal. You're coming down. This is down. This is down. This is down. This looks down too. See, that looks down. So there's a good chance you're coming to break this low. You're pretty much doing this. See that channel there? And you're looking for it to come back to the bottom of that channel. That channel tells us the momentum is dying out and it's going to go back. Now, I don't know what the whole thing is. I'm not even going to go into that. Oh my God. Did this thing come from the top? Well, it had to come from the bottom first, right? It originally had to come from here and go up. So at this point, when they're so low, you have to be careful. If you're going to, I don't know if you can sell it. If you, on your side, can sell it. If you can sell it, great. If you can't sell it, wait for a really good buy setup when it breaks the low. On the lower time frame, the 1 hour, it's a sell setup. Right, this is a sell setup, see? So that's pretty much going to drop. So the 1 hour and all time frames are sell setups. What is the other one, Vic?
The other one was rare USDT, RARE.
Okay, let's see this very quick. We'll have to do a whole webinar on cryptos only. It seems like there's about 1 million of them. So again, this is the structure. It's coming from the top. I don't know where the low is for this. It seems like it's already at the low. We make that big flat. We drop. We make a small flat. I don't even know if I'll go with this as the small flat because this one is relatively sharp. So we are pretty much doing this. This could be a flat for upside as well as a flat for downside. This is what you'll have to wait for. Let's go into 4 hours. On the 4 hours, this could go both ways. I would watch this here. See this pattern here? And if I'm going to get a buy setup from this, this is the low. So the buy setup can come. That's the low point. So if this starts to go up and make a flag here, you can take this trade back to break out. Once it gets to the top there, you put it to break even. If it comes really sharp, put an entry above the top. You'll have to keep a stop under the low and see how high that goes. So this could go both ways. It could go up. It could go down. It looks more upside to me. At least one more spike to the upside, and then you'll see what happens. These things have a lot of spikes, so you have to be there at the moment, or you have to put a take profit in it. US 500, I think that's the same thing as the S&P 500. Right, that's the S&P 500. You want the long term. US 500, S&P 500 is the same thing. You want the long-term analysis. Long-term analysis is upside. The longer term is this one here, right? The short trade is coming here, but the longer term is upside because once this is completed, it's going to go back up one more. I hope that makes sense. I don't think once we complete this flat here, this is going to go back. So the short term is downside. The long term, right now, we're looking for a sell setup in it. We have sell setups on all of them. Why didn't I put the sell? We have a sell setup here, by the way. It's a sell. We have a sell setup here, by the way. That's a selling. We didn't sell the US 30 because it's way at the top. So the US 30 is the one we don't have to sell on. Those two we have sell setups up. Can be running flat starting from 13 December. Let's go back to that. 13 December. Running flat. Where's December? December. For this piece, no, I don't think that would be a running flat. Because we're pretty much looking at, see the sharp one here? We're pretty much looking at this as the running flat. Now, if we think this is a running flat, I would want to see this come down much more sharper, more like this. We actually have one that we're thinking is a running flat. That is the NASDAQ. Is it the NASDAQ? Not this one. This one also has this running flat. I think the US 30. Let me see. Yeah, this one we're looking at as running flat. This two, right? This one here with this one, because this one is very sharp. So we're thinking this is going to go back up there as a running flat. But it could short term come here and then go. So this one we're not buying. This one upside looks very much so. But remember, once it goes back up, it has to come down, right? It goes back here, it has to come down because this is the sharp one. That will complete the pattern and then upside. Right? So yes, this one we'll go with that as a running flat, but not necessarily this one. This one doesn't have the same structure. See, this is not coming down so fast, and there is already a sharp one here. But this could go up like this. You do have an impulse. You got a running flat. You get this. You get a correction. You could continue to go. This might drop here and then go back up. And that'll be okay. This trade could be very short-lived. Right? It looks very much upside, but it could also be that you're doing this on the 4-hour. We could be doing this for this running flat here. Right? And then this drops to the low, come back to this low, and then go back up. That is why we're looking for this as a sell setup for now. But if it keeps going up, it will be just a flat for upside. So by New York session, we might get a buy setup rather than a sell setup. It all depends on how deep that goes back up. How deep this goes. If it stopped right here and drop, we're in the sell. As a matter of fact, I can put the sell entry a little higher now, which means the sell entry goes here. For my traders, we can move the sell entry up. We broke the top. Right? Some more requests on YouTube. What is that? AGIX. That's a lot of dead shot. What is that's somebody called dead shot. GRT. Okay, let's see. Let's do those two, and then we'll go back to trading what we're doing. Right. So let's see. AGIX. BUSD, right? Okay, there's a premium index here in this one. I don't know if the top one will work. I'll go with that. There's a better one here, I think. But that's USDT, that's not the BUSD. So we're gonna go with this one. Let's see if we have a good chart. Oops, this is the chart. I don't think that's a chart, so I'll probably think that's the wrong one. We're going to close that. I don't have the chart for the one you're asking for, right? Let me see if I can find another chart somewhere. Nope, that's the only one that exists with that format that you wanted. Give me another one. Maybe USD, not the BUSD. That would probably help. I think we saw one with the USD. And the next one, AG. So what's the next thing? GRT. I'll go with the top one, assuming that's the right one. Oh, you got a perfect sell setup here forming in the 1 hour. But it doesn't move very far, see? They don't move very far to the downside. Let's see in the 4 hour what it looks like. Daily, weekly. I still can't see the structure as it is. So wherever this come from, it looks like it came from the top, it made a top and it's coming down. So I would put all of this as consolidation, weekly consolidation. This would have to go back up to the top there and then drop. So you can see this, right? So this consolidation here is little more to the upside on the weekly. So go back to the daily. And in the daily consolidation, this could be a running flat. Let's put it this way. I could go with that as a running flat, coming back here and then going back up. So you might get a small trade to the downside, or not relatively small, depending on complete this flat here and then upside. So you'll have to go back for this. You're consolidating in this range, right? So go back there, come back here, go back there, and then downside. So there's some downside forming in the 1 hour for you. Go back to the 4 hours. Sorry, I have to do this. I have to put this here for you. I'm looking at this as a possible running flat here. And this piece coming back to the low like this before it goes up. Right, so that is. Do you use volume as an entry point on cryptos or Forex? No. You had made a nice video on SMC in your YouTube channel, which is very interesting. Do you have any opinion on the method related to the use of volume? I've never used volume. I don't use it. Volume trades on currencies is irrelevant. It's useless, and nobody knows the volume of trade happening at any. You see, there is no centralized market for currencies. So any volume instrument you're using is relative to one spot, right? It's relative to one spot, one place where that volume is coming from. Right? There is no centralized place to know exactly what volume of trade happened at any given point in time. I can know what volume of trade happened at one given bank. I can know what volume of trade happened at one given broker. I wouldn't know what volume of trade happened within the world, the entire Forex market, because it's not centralized. Right? All you're getting is the price that is coming, because the price is centralized. The volume of trade is not centralized, but the price that is trading is. So using volume to trade Forex is, here's the thing. Let me make it simple. I'm going to close with this so all of you guys can learn something. This is what you need to know. At some point in time, you were all about 2 years old learning to ride a bicycle, right? And you were scared you're going to fall. So what you did, you add 2 more wheels to it, and you got a quadricycle or a tricycle to ride, right? So you got a tricycle with 2 spare wheels at the side, normally a tricycle, or a bicycle with 2 spare wheels at the side that you ride, right? That is to give you confidence of getting into the bicycle, balancing and going until you learn to ride and you take it out. So everything else people are putting on the charts, like volumes and Ichimoku cloud and all the support and resist, all those BS are trying to give you confidence that the market will do what you want it to do, because, hey, it's going to hit my support and then it's going to turn, or it's going to hit my resistance and it's going to come down back, or it's going to hit the moving average, the 50 moving average, and it's going to bounce off. I actually literally heard one trader saying, and I mean really big, this guy has thousands, tens of thousands, hundreds of thousands of followers, literally said, oh, we expect this to bounce off that 100 moving average. And I'm like, why? Why would it bounce off some moving average? There's no reason for that. You can't think of a bank trading this and it was a stock. You can't think of banks and big billionaires, companies, hedge funds trading a stock, and their only reason not to sell it anymore is because it's going to bounce off a moving average. Really? That's your thought process? I mean, just ask yourself, like, I don't know, you're one of these big hedge funds and this thing is dropping like crazy and you're in the sell and you're going to drop some more sell on it, or you're going to take out 3 or 4 more options against it, right? And you're literally expecting the drop and it hit the moving average and it stopped. You're going to get scared at that point. Oh, here is a 100 moving average. That is going to stop it. Let me just exit all my trade. No, that doesn't happen in the real world. That's crazy. The idea that it's going to bounce off is crazy. Can it accidentally sometimes turn at that point a little above, a little below on the spot? Yes. Sometimes it do, if the drop is far enough from where you're expecting to go back up for correction. So most of the things you put on are just to give you confidence, to make you feel comfort. It's like comforter. You have a comforter, you can sleep. You don't have one, you're going to wake up. You're going to wake up to the reality that the chart is not going to respect any of the thing you put on. These lines are not because I think the chart is going to respect them. These lines are my guidance. They're showing me visually what the pattern is that I'm looking at. It has nothing to do with where the chart is going to go. right? So any other thing you use, the market is not going to respect. I don't care. The only reason we use the MACD is to show us that momentum is dying out. Remember, the MACD is a series of moving averages, slow and fast, that is telling you, okay, if you take a certain amount of price in a certain amount of period, you can see whether it's the movement, the price action to the volume of things that are happening, not in the volume, to the general trend is slowing down. And that seems to work. It does give you an idea that when it starts to curve and you have divergence, there is always either a pullback, not an end of the direction, but a pullback or a reversal, depending on what patterns you're looking at. Patterns by themselves are formed because of what the market is doing, right? It's not that the market is creating patterns. Patterns form because of what the market is doing. So what we are doing is we are actually studying patterns that are created in a certain conditions. Think of your life. If somebody starts to create a pattern of you, watch you, let somebody says they're observing you, they look what time you wake up in the morning. They look what you do when you wake up, what time you brush your teeth, what time you take breakfast, where do you go after that, right? And they plot all your movements for a month, every day, every hour. I can tell you with very, very high, 80–90% probability what you're going to do Tuesday 10 p.m. or Tuesday 10 a.m. the next month. Because you're gonna do almost the same thing. You're not gonna change your habit because you're working somewhere or you're doing something that you would repeat doing every day. The market repeats itself. People come to work, they sit down, they do the same thing, right? They're giving the same criteria of how they should trade this. Each hedge fund is deciding what they're gonna do. Each bank is deciding what they're gonna do. And each business tends to repeat. Business has a standard amount of sales they will sell, up and down, plus minus. But they would convert so much money at a regular time to pay salary to do this. So these things are kind of regular, and that creates patterns. And if you understand the patterns and you study the patterns, the probability of one of those patterns repeating like the pattern did last month or the pattern did the month before, repeating the same thing this month or this day or this hour, depending on what time frame pattern you're looking at, the chances of it repeating itself is pretty high. There's about an 80% chance that that pattern will do exactly what the previous 100 patterns like that did. And the reason that 100 pattern was created was because the people who trade this instrument were behaving that way at that given time, and they're doing exactly the same thing at this given time. And if you keep repeating that for anybody, for anything they do, you would find that you have patterns. Your life is patterns. Everything you do around you is patterns. The season, the weather is patterns. The sun is pattern. The moon is pattern. Everything goes around in patterns. And they repeat themselves, and the patterns tend to repeat themselves almost exactly the same way every time. So there are cyclic behavior patterns. And that means if you study it, the probability of you being right in guessing or forecasting what it's going to do next is there. That's all you need to do. Everything else is irrelevant. Everything else you have in the chart, you can put on whatever you want. You can guess your way of whatever instrument, you can use whatever you want. It's going to be irrelevant. It might or might not work. It might or might not coincide with what you're doing. But it will be irrelevant. Whether it hits your stop loss or whether it hits your support and resistance and bounce or don't bounce is irrelevant. It's just a myth because you put it there. And if you put 6 cross lines across this here, let's just do, I've done this like a million times showing everybody. I'll just put them randomly. All of those are perfect support and resistance. And I will show you, we can go back in the past and show you. There's no charts here, but we can start from this point. You will see how perfect this works. You see that stop here. So you see how they bounce off that one there when they were coming up, and then they break through, then they come and look what happened here. They bounce back, and look how they bounced off this one here, and look how they bounced off that one, and look how they respect this, and look. All that is bullshit. They're not respecting anything and they're not bouncing off. You can move this up anywhere you want blindly and go back in the future and you will see. They will tell you that. You see how it's bouncing between these two here? Well, it's consolidating. It's going to bounce between any two things. And the same will be for any instrument you use. If you guys, that's what the difference with what I think traders should do. We have to start questioning everything we hear because there's a lot of BS out there. Question, test, sort for knowledge, research, do the testing, come back in the group of intelligent traders and trade with them, smart traders, And then you're going to see that all those myth and nonsense you're hearing out there is just nonsense and myth. It has nothing to do with reality. So I'm going to leave you guys with that thought. You're in a space where we think and we work with facts and we work with things that make sense, right? Things that are knowledge. We work with knowledge. We don't work with, hey, maybe the blue moon is going to come out and then this is going to go, right? We don't work with that nonsense. And this is where we work on probability. It's a game of probability. And if the probability is on your side, you're going to do well. That's all. I'm going to leave you guys with that thought. Trade with care. We'll come back. We'll show you what we saw, what the patterns are, what the trades are, how we manage them, if there's a change in the structure, if there's a change in the pattern we're looking at, and what we do. Right? Basically, that's all. The more you study these patterns, the more you'll understand it, the more you will know when they're going to go exactly as you think it is, which means you've got that pattern intact and correct, and when you've got the pattern wrong. Because you are going to get the pattern wrong sometimes. Patterns are complex. And it means sometimes the simple pattern you're looking at will not behave in a simple way. It will become more complex. And that's where you make your decision what to do. Take care, trade with care. Thanks for coming. I hope you guys can bring more traders. I mean, a lot of traders need to learn this stuff. I would like to share this stuff with a lot of traders. I would like traders to come and understand this and learn it more. So it's up to you to share it. You know traders, you know friends out there. Just give them a chance to come and learn something. Worst case is they come and they don't like what I do and they say, oh, nonsense. And I'm okay with that. Right? So I'll see all of you guys. Take care, trade with care. Bye. We'll take more questions in the New York session. So see you all in the New York session this afternoon. Take care. Bye-bye. Don't forget to go